Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about the finale to one of the most hyped trilogies I've ever come across on booktube. Um, and I'm happy to report that there is a lot of fire where there is all that smoke. And the book I want to talk about is The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. This is the finale to the infamous Lycanius trilogy. If you're a fan of fantasy booktube, you're probably sick to death of hearing about this trilogy um, being recommended to you, and there is good reason for it. There is a ton to recommend this trilogy, even for weary readers like myself who sometimes it feels like you've just read everything fantasy has to offer and more. Um, but yeah, The Light of All That Falls, it's just an amazing finale to what's been one of the most surprising trilogies I've come across in quite a while. I still find it very difficult to believe that this is James Islington's debut trilogy. It's just so wonderfully conceived and executed from start to finish. Um, so to put it bluntly, this shit was epic. um, Quick summary about what it's about. So it picks up directly after the events of the second book. The boundary that protects the world has been restored, but it was restored at a very high cost. And it before it could be restored, there some of the beings on the other side of it did manage to slip through, and they're now a very sizable threat to the land that has to be dealt with in this book. So, war is afoot, is one way of putting it. Um, in addition to that, there's still the overarching. That's just the quote unquote subplot of this book. There is still the overarching mystery that's been building over the last two books that does have to get resolved in this. There is the fight in the shadows that one of our main characters has been taking part in, and it all comes together in a wonderful, in a pretty wonderful way that it was just brilliantly handled, brilliantly executed, and it's a very strong finish to a very good trilogy. Um, so, what did I think of this book in general? So, like I said, it has to do a lot because it has to cap off the series, and it does have to answer a lot of questions that have been brewing in the last two books, and it's really well done. Like this is a novel where our characters also really come into their own, each in their own place. Ash is doing her own thing. Um, Davian, he's fully embroiled in the arcane battle in the background against the Venerate, and we have Caden. He regains his enough knowledge of his past to really start to really start to set in motion what he set to really set in motion his particular story, um, that is very significant, is very consequential for the series, and who is my least favorite character of the bunch. He's doing his own thing as the he's basically Aragorn in this trilogy. For lack of a better, yeah, he's basically Aragorn. Like if you know Aragorn's story, you know Weir's story. Whatever, forget about him. I don't like him. But yeah, um, it's just like these so many threads and plots come together in this book in like a really good confluence that from start to finish it gives you like it's a really good climax that takes course over a sequence of events that's just going to blow your mind. Like one of my big concerns with this trilogy over and over is that in many ways some of the elements that it's encompasses are they're overpowered, and if they're not handled very delicately, very proficiently, they will just punch big plot holes in the story. You have things like time travel, you have things like truth binding. Like people can't speak a falsehood without getting caught. That kind of thing. And what's amazing about this book, what I think one of the things that I enjoy the most about this book is that James Islington takes these skills that should be overpowered, and he not just uses the flaws in their he just not uses their limitations to great effect. He incorporates them in the story in a way that's just going to blow your mind. Like they do the flaws of these skills do result in some very consequential events that occur, and it just completely changes everything about the book, about the events that we think we know to this point. It's brilliantly handled. I love it. I think it's probably my favorite thing about these books. The and that kind of stems from the fact that at its core this is very much classic epic fantasy. Classic in the sense I don't even want to use the word classic, because it's clearly epic fantasy that's kind of inspired by like Robert Jordan and all of that, and those guys are from the 90s. Like I'm a 90s kid. I'm not ready to associate the word classic with anything from my age range per se. But yeah, for lack of a better term, it is very much a classic epic fantasy story. It doesn't try to do anything new. It just combines really good storytelling with really good characterization. Like over and over, one of the things you'll hear authors say is that you don't necessarily need to be new or creative or spellbinding. You just have to tell a really good story and tell it well. And that's something that James Islington does with this trilogy. Like, there's nothing new under the sun here. There's no concept that's going to blow your mind. There's nothing unique or shocking about any of this. These are all going to be elements that you've encountered before, but it's just how he uses them and the story that he tells with them that's just captivating from start to finish. But yeah, this is the finale book. Like, all the trials and tribulations that our characters have gone through up to this point, this is the point where they come to a head. We like, everyone has some form of character development that slowly occurred over the course of this trilogy, that it kind of comes into play in this one, because they wouldn't make the choices that they make if they were the same people that we met in the first books, except because I don't like him. But yeah, even he I just don't like him. Whatever, I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, Caden being the most significant one, because obviously when we met him he had no memory, and in this book he has knowledge of the past and the agency to act on it. But yeah, so I think that just sums up my thoughts on this trilogy. It's brilliantly written, classic inspired fantasy with enough modern twist on it to delight the modern reader who wants, like, I guess a more dense, a more gritty kind of story, and not gritty in terms of low fantasy, just in terms of like the granularity in which it does some things. It's just good. It's just good. Is the best way to put it. It's standard stuff from start to finish, and it's brilliant stuff from start to finish. Yeah. I'm happy to report could it be overhyped? Maybe for some people, yeah. But there is some fire where there's all that smoke. Like I said, like it does deserve a lot of the praise that it gets. I'm quite happy that I've read this trilogy at this point, and if someone came to me and said, they want to check out this trilogy because of how beloved it seems to be on booktube, normally I'm usually very skeptical whenever I see like influences hyping up a book. This is one where I wouldn't hesitate to say, yeah, it's worth checking out. It's worth the read. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of epic fantasy, if you're a fan of classic fantasy, if you just like really rich, huge books. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching.